The following portion of Daytime Tri-Cities is sponsored by AFI, your financial North Star. All right, once again, a very special edition this morning of Making Money Manageable. We are here live on location at the AFI Advisors Office here in Colonial Heights. We have President of AFI Advisors, Peter Raber, here with us, along with Robert Ingram. Thank you guys so much for hosting us today.
No, thank you for coming out. We're excited to be able to give a glimpse of what we're doing on a daily basis and being in our kind of home territory.
Yeah, it's nice to join you here and get to see the office, and we have covered certainly a lot of ground over the last several weeks, and today an opportunity, you said, to really let the viewers kind of ask some of their questions, and you got quite a few questions.
We did, and hopefully people can take our answers and expound on them, because there's only so much you can do within this context, and I'd really encourage people either call us, get in touch with us, whoever that they're dealing with, and talk these issues out in true detail, because that's where the mistakes are made. It's kind of in those details, but I'm excited to answer them, and hopefully people can find some value.
Well, we've got two people here that are totally ready to answer these questions, and we're going to start with Randy from Churchill, who talks very broadly. How do I figure out how much money I will need for retirement?
That's such a good question, and it's a hard thing for a lot of people to figure out. It's so far out in the future. How do you even know? And there's metrics that we can use and rules of thumb that can help guide the way. So one thing that we look at is how much money are you going to be spending in retirement? And the rule of thumb is roughly 80% of your take-home pay. So if you're making $100,000, that would be an $80,000. And a lot of those things are based upon how much your mortgage is paid off. How much of your debt have you been able to pay down? You're no longer commuting. You're no longer buying clothes for work. So your expenses often come down in retirement. And then another rule of thumb that we'll use to help people is roughly for every $50,000 of take-home pay that you're used to, it really makes sense to have about $350,000 in the bank, because that's going to last you until the math would say 98, 99. But if you don't have that in the bank, that's okay. There's just harder choices that have to be made at that point.
Yeah, you said sometimes it's a lot up front to kind of digest, right, but it's better to start early. And early whenever you are right at the moment.
Exactly. And so if that's 5 years till your retirement, we figure out where you're at right now. If that's 30 years from retirement, we've got a lot easier conversation, but we kind of can plan those things out. So starting now is always the most important thing.
All right. And then our next question comes from Kathy in Abingdon. She inherited some money from a family member. She says $50,000. Now she's trying to decide, do I invest it or do I have some debt that I should maybe look at first?
Right. And whenever we inherit assets, we tell a lot of people don't plan on inheritance, but when we do get inherited assets, we're looking at things like, what is our current situation of debt? If you have high credit card debt, if you have student loans that are charging you 6%, those are things that paying down those debts can free you up to do a lot of things. And you would look at it and say, well, how much could I earn? If you're willing to take the risk of the market and you can earn 7, 8, 9, 10% in the market and only pay 4% on debt, the math would say invest. That doesn't help people sleep at night sometimes. So I always say there's a math answer and there's a real life answer. There is a psychological value to paying down debt. And I never think it's a bad decision, even if the numbers tell me I'm wrong. Just getting out of debt is always a good thing.
Yeah, that peace of mind plays a part. All right, and then Robert, we've got a question for you. This is from Christine in Gray. She said she's no longer able to itemize my deductions for taxes. What are some other ways I can reduce that? And I think a lot of people are seeing that this year and last year with the change in the tax structure.
That's right. That's a really good question. The latest major tax reform increased those standard deductions so high that most people are not itemizing their deductions. So instead, people should, in order to improve their overall tax burden, maximize their contributions to tax-advantaged investment accounts like retirement, health savings, education. Tax cost savings can be achieved through tax deferral in those accounts and even tax-free growth. And retirees can reduce their tax burden as well through timing distributions from these retirement accounts and even converting these accounts as well. And so, but all these strategies require assistance from a tax professional.
So always good advice to sit down with someone to help you walk that walk and take those necessary steps.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We've gotten through a few questions. We have plenty more coming up a little later on in the show, but we'll give you some information. If you would like to check out the website, you can do that. It is AFI Advisors, and of course their office located right here in Colonial Heights. We'll be right back.
The preceding portion of Daytime Tri-Cities is sponsored by AFI, your financial North Star.